In this episode of the Thumbnail Media Viewer, we're going to be setting up the media controller portion part for our application. Welcome to Mobile Application Tutorials. My name's Nigel. Okay, so this is a sort of part 2 of this tutorial. The previous tutorial setting up the media session took about half an hour, which is very consuming to edit and publish, so I broke this particular episode into 2, and it sort of makes a nice fit. So in the previous tutorial we set up the media session, and the media session is the part that communicates directly with the media players such as ExePlayer and Media Player or any other type of player as such. So we completed that portion in the previous tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to focus on the controller side. The controller side communicates and links directly with your application's UI. And so that gives us the flexibility of changing UIs if we want for our player application. Anyway, so we'll make a start first. So first of all we need to set up our MediaControllerCompat variables. So we'll try and do that in a similar place. So I'll create it just above here. I said above, didn't I? And this is going to be a MediaControllerCompat, and I'm just going to call it controller. I lost the ability to type now. I'm also going to create a callback object for that control, and this is quite important. The callback object will inform us from the media session of the various states of the media player, such as the media player's being told to pause or stop or play. We're going to want to update our UI play pause icons as such, so that will happen in this callback. So we'll create the media session and it's going to be a callback. And I'll just call this MController callback. I'm going to create a new object here. Okay, across to here it's prompting me, and I just want to get the playback state as the playback state's changed, just to update my UI icon. So I just need to select that. Okay, now I need to put a bit of code in here, so I'm going to add a switch statement just to see what playback state we're getting received from the media session itself. So if I call state, it's just pass to us and get state, and I'm just going to listen for play, pause, and stop. Just the standard states here. So we need to call the playback state compact. And I want to look for state playing first. It's nice and clean. So if we get state playing, we'll call our image button and update the state to pause, because if we're playing, we want the pause state to be displayed so we can pause it if we want. So we'll call the play pause button. Set image resource. And it'll be a pause. So if we're playing, we want the pause icon to be displayed. Break out of that. And support the next one. And let's go for pause. State pause. Again, we'll call the button. And if we're paused, we want the play button to be displayed. Break that. And just put one more state stopped. And state stopped. And in this case, we're going to set it to... So if we're stopped, we want the play button to be displayed again. So if we're stopped, have that play button displayed. Put a break on there. Okay, and that's all we're going to do for the controller callback. We're just going to update our UI with this with the media player state changes. Okay, so that's now been done. I just want to add one more member here, and that's going to be the member that allows us to send stop and play requests to the media session, and it's called a transport control, I believe. So we'll call private media controller state callback, and here we are, transport controllers. I'm going to call it media controller, try and keep my naming convention, and select transport controls. Okay, so those are the three members I need to utilize for the UI side of our media player. Okay, so let's go into the on create and initialize those. And I'll do it down here. First of all, we need to create our media controller, or initialize it. Okay, it's going to take context, which is this, and we need to pass into the media session to it as well. And I'm just going to set up our the callback. I will sort of register and unregister the controller callback during when we're when applications resumed or started or stopped. But here I need to set up our controller, which is where we gives us the permission, or gives us the means of sending play, pause and stop commands down to the media session. So we call media controller again. No, it's transport, isn't it? Media controller transport controls, initialize that, and we can get that from the controller itself with get controls. Okay, those should be the only changes we need to make. So let's scroll on down and implement the rest of the functionality for our UI. Here's our play, pause, click button from the UI. So let's implement that first. So first of all, I just want to check the state. So basically the media session now will send me the state of whether we're playing and stopping and everything. And I can do a request via the controller to get the media session state like this. So if I call our controller and I get playback state, get playback state, and the states, I want to listen for a number of states here pending our play. So if I call playback state compact, and let's go for playing first to get that out of the way. So if our state is currently playing, I want to pause that. And to pause that, I can basically call our transport control and call pause. And that will send a command down to the media session. And then we've already set up the code for that in the media session callback to actually pause the media player. Okay. Right, now I also want to listen to if nothing's happening, if we're not playing, if we're stopped, or if our state's none, basically was when we first start the application. So again, I'm going to listen for a number of states here. So call the controller, get state. So we're going to listen for paused. And we also want to listen for state stopped. And we also want to listen for another state in case its application's first started. And this is states called state none. So we're going to listen for all those three states. And if it's one of those states, we want to play. So we'll call the controller, controller transport, and play as such. And that should be fine for supporting our UI play, pause, click button. Right, now on stop. So when we stop, we basically want to release the controller callback. So we can call the controller and it's basically unregistered the callback, and the callback is an end controller callback. Okay, and we also want to send basically when we stop, we're leaving the application. So what we want to do here is just to send the stop request down through to the media session. And first of all, we want to only do that if we're not in the stop state. If we're in the stop state, that's okay, we don't need to do anything. So we'll first of all check our state as we did before. So we'll check to see if we're state playing. Or if the state's paused. And if it's either of those states, we will call down to call our media controller transport and call stop. Okay, and now's a good time to add the corresponding start method, activity method. And again, if we're starting, we can register our controller callback. Okay, so it'd be a register callback, and the callback is controller callback. Now for on start is a good place to tell our application to look for some media session actions. So again, we can use our media playback builder and set actions. So we want to basically, let's call them out. We want to basically listen for the play state. So action play, and from the documentation we'll set up action play pause down there. So we're basically telling the media session is going to be looking for these two states, listening for these two states. And we can just now set that to our media session. And set playback state. And a BM builder, and we need to build that to return the playback object. And that's the only changes. We're going to manually support playing by pressing the button here. Okay, and we also need to support if the activity pauses. We want to pause the media play here. Okay, so again, we'll listen to whether or not we're in the pause state. If the state is playing, or basically if we're playing, we want to put it into the pause state. So I'm not too worried if it's in the on stop state. So if it's currently playing, we'll call down to our transport controller and pause the player as such. Right, nearly there before we run this. What I want to check here now is we just need to clean up our media session, and we can do that in the application on destroy. I'm not too sure if this is in the documentation. Let's just quickly check. So media session callbacks. Okay, it's not in the table, but basically in an on destroy we release the session. So create an on destroy. And call our media session, and this is what we just call release. And just one more thing, because we're actually going to be pressing the play button to play the video this time, I just need to adjust our layout. So where are we here? So we set the default there to pause. I want to change that to play. Okay. Now let's try running this and see what happens. Let's press the play there and start recording. That was something else. Get rid of that. Okay, so I'm going to just click on this icon at the top there. Okay, and press the play button there. And this is a view outside my apartment of a little mountain. We can stop that and play that again. And as you saw at the very end, it went back to the play button there. And that concludes this tutorial. Very long tutorial. I had to break it into 2 portions just to support the video editing process. So what we basically learned here is how Media Player you can support different UIs, and you can support different media players all in the one application by using the controller part and the session part. So media applications have become very powerful. It's pretty important to use the media session as well, because you're informing Android operating system what you're doing, so that can send you notifications back as well as supporting things such as remote play and remote start, play, pause buttons and headsets, and etc, etc. Anyway, that concludes this tutorial. If you enjoy my tutorials and want to get notified of any other tutorials that I'm working on, don't forget to click on the subscribe button just below me. That is a clickable link if you're from a PC. And surrounding me is all my social media accounts. I do sort of make announcements of when I release a video, an article, or anything such as that, any news and the projects I'm working on. So please go across to those links just to keep informed of what I'm up to. Directly above me is a link to my website, and I don't answer any questions as such. I just don't have any available time at all, but I do provide a bit of time and consultancy support, paid consultancy support. You can contact me over in Code Mentor for that. Anyway, that's all for this one. Bye for now.